The government's COVID response inquiry report, released a couple of weeks ago, has been described as an ethically offensive piece of sycophancy by a leading economist. Professor Gigi Foster of the School of Economics at the University of New South Wales says that she had long expected that this inquiry would be a whitewash, based on the brazen lack of acknowledgement of or accountability for COVID-era mistakes displayed so far by Australia's political class. Professor Foster says that the Albanese government COVID inquiry's report falls well short of the mark. We are now in far more debt, with less societal strength and cohesion, less trust in our institutions, and less health than before COVID. And these outcomes are not because of COVID itself, but because of the colossal mismanagement of the COVID crisis by our so-called leaders. Professor Gigi Foster joins me from Sydney right now. Professor Foster, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me on the show, Damien. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
In launching this report, the Health Minister, Mark Butler, and the Treasurer, Jim Chalmers, said it was a great report and that we managed COVID very well as a nation, and that the report doesn't want to scapegoat anyone. You know, we don't want to point any fingers at anyone or lay any responsibility at anybody's feet. I mean, and in reality, it just seems like they don't want to require anyone to take any responsibility for anything. But am I being too harsh?
No, I mean, in a sense, that is the underlying motivation. But if you read the report, it is full of hand-wringing and pearl clutching around some mistakes that were made. That's been the clarion call generally on the side that visited these betrayals on people not only in Australia, but around the West during the COVID era, is to say, well, maybe we got a few things wrong. And in this case, the report did mention some of the negative mental health effects of lockdowns, for example, and also the fact that our current cost of living crisis may in part be the result of extreme fiscal expenditure and a lack of raising interest rates until it was too late. So they do have a little bit of an acknowledgement that maybe a few things were done wrong, but they miss the big picture entirely. They miss entirely the fact that the main problems that we encountered were because of total mismanagement, complete departure from the pandemic management plans that we had in place before COVID. And so you basically end up with recommendations that say we should do more of what didn't work last time, the next time that we have a health crisis. And so it's just going the wrong direction.
Yeah, and I mean, look, the big gaping hole in this is that a lot of the abuses, and I'll call them that because that's what they were, abuses of power, came from the states.
Yep.
And this report deliberately only looked at the federal. This was a federal inquiry. It's designed to be a whitewash. We know that. They didn't look at the states. Do we need a proper royal commission? And do you think we'll ever get one, Gigi?
Oh, I definitely think we will get one. But I don't think that will be enough. If I look at the history of royal commissions in Australia, they tend to look at things that everybody has finally decided really are a problem, like banking and finance or aged care. There's a lot of song and dance. There's a lot of money poured into it. We get a big chunky report with lots of recommendations. And generally speaking, we don't see a lot of change. So I also think in terms of the COVID crisis in particular, the damage was done at such a detailed and local level on so many different levels that we need something much more than a royal commission, actually. And I think that what we need has to be come up with and then instigated by people at the grassroots. I do not think it will come from the top down.
Well, it can't, can it? Because our political class, our political elites are the ones being who are in the witness box here, right? So it's like,
yes,
you can't have them investigating themselves. It's got to come from the ground up. And I guess the ballot box might be the only place we can do that, but it's both the major parties that were at fault. Do you think they're going to take the lesson, though? Do you think they'll ever try it on again? If there were another pandemic, God forbid, but they did say, you know, there will be a next time and we're going to have to know how to manage it next time. Yeah, well, you could use the crisis plans we had before the last one that you ignored. That would be nice.
Exactly.
God forbid you should do what you planned to do in the first place.
I know.
But I mean, this whole, you know, we did the best we could at the time under very difficult circumstances. Excuse me, you know, you were told 1,000 times over by people in the moment that you completely ignored that you shouldn't just be listening to your CHOs or abdicating power to your CHOs. You've got to take responsibility as a leader and you've got to make decisions based on a wide range of advice from a wide range of people, including the incredible impact of these lockdowns.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the lockdowns era. Quite apart from the human rights, the civil liberties and all the other abominable, absolute whitewashing. Did the lockdowns, what did this report say about the lockdowns versus what you know about research done subsequently into the lockdowns and whether they worked or not, or were of any benefit. The cost benefit analysis was right.
Yeah, well, I mean, as you know, Damien, the government in Australia, neither the Commonwealth nor the states have actually come out with a cost benefit analysis defending lockdowns, a proper one, a proper evaluation, looking at all the costs and benefits that were involved. What people typically do, and this is reported in this inquiry as well, is to say, well, look at our COVID-19 results, our deaths in 2020 and 2021 from COVID-19, and look at our economic performance in those 2 years relative to peer nations. Hey, we didn't do too badly, ergo, conclusion, the lockdowns worked, QED, right? That's what they say. And this is nonsense because you're completely ignoring so many other costs that the lockdowns required us to pay in terms of mental health, in terms of disrupting the economy, in terms of health, directly, physical health, staying inside, not getting sunlight, not seeing your friends, all of these things, the children's disruption of human capital, crowded out healthcare for everything that wasn't COVID, all of these things I consider in my cost benefit analysis, which I finally wrote with Sanjeev Sablock, ex-Victorian Treasury economist, in 2022, because the governments of Australia had not written something like that. And I thought, we've got to do it. And what I find in that report is that lockdowns delivered a quantum of cost to Australia that was at least 68 times how much benefit they could possibly have delivered. And really, at this moment, with hindsight, I'm not sure that even that quantum of benefit was there. So
right. I just want to emphasize that, Gigi, for everybody at the moment. I don't want to just brush over that. That's an incredible finding. You conducted a report because governments didn't. At the University of New South Wales, in your capacity as a professor of economics, you did this report with a previous Victorian economics government economist, Sanjeev Sablock, and you showed that lockdowns inflicted human costs on Australia in an amount equal to at least 68 times the value of the human benefits they could possibly have delivered. Not economic. People say, oh, you worry about the money. No. This is human benefits, human impacts. 68 times worse potentially than what benefit could have been extracted. So that's a massive failure of policy decision making, of leadership, of the lot, right?
Precisely. And this is exactly why I have been pleading with governments to look at the actual data, look at the what we see when we do a proper evaluation of policy, the way that we normally evaluate policy, Damien. I mean, cost benefit analysis is the bread and butter of treasuries around Australia and around the world. This is how we normally evaluate policy. But that, again, just like the pandemic management plan, has gone out the window because it's politically inconvenient. And so, unfortunately, we don't see a recognition of my cost benefit analysis or any of the other maybe dozen or so that have been done around the world, very serious ones, evaluating lockdowns and finding that they were absolutely the wrong policy and were incredibly destructive. So we don't see that. What we see is instead this sort of very superficial quote unquote evaluation, followed by some admissions that there were mistakes made, and therefore we should tighten the reins next time. For example, by establishing an Australian Centre for Disease Control.
What an original idea. Let's have a Centre of Disease Control. The answer to all failings of government from government is more government.
That's the thing.
They're going to they just want us to set up another massive organisation, massive bureaucracy. And what are they going to cut to pay for that? Are they going to cut some health department jobs that we've got now and move them over, or are they it's just more money?
It's so conceited and it's so disrespectful to the power of the grassroots, the power of the individual person on the street to discover what is best for him and his family. That notion that we need experimentation and freedom in a crisis more almost than we do in normal times in order to innovate our way out of that crisis. All of the things we discovered during the 2020-2021 crisis, which we could have used to help people who were infected with COVID, were basically ignored, suppressed, or outright banned by the people in charge during COVID. And that happened not just here in Australia, but as you know, also in the US, for example, with the FDA's horse dewormer tweet about ivermectin. That sort of behavior from the control center to suppress what is being learned and discovered that could actually be helpful at the coal face, that pattern happened over and over and over again. So in response to seeing that, what we should do is say, hey, we need less centralized control. We need more of the dissemination unlimited power and belief and trust in the power of humanity the next time that we have a major crisis. And the government should catalyze and assist and disseminate knowledge, but not try to coerce anybody and not have a command and control approach.
Yep, absolutely. Gigi Foster, thank you so much for joining us on the other side. We hope to have you on the show again in the very near future and for a bit longer as well, I hope. Thanks very much for your time.
Thanks so much, Damien.
All right, well, Gigi is involved with an organisation called the Australians for Science and Freedom. So if you'd like to get involved in that organisation, supporting that organisation, having a look at the work that they do, it's full of very smart, very senior people, doctors, lawyers and economists. Australians for Science and Freedom. They are Melbourne-based, but they operate all over Australia. So Gigi's in Sydney, obviously. Get onto that, Australians for Science and Freedom. Now, they have a big conference coming up. They have an annual conference every year. And next weekend, or this coming weekend, the 15th of November, they are doing their second conference, their second annual conference. It's called Progress Through Science and Freedom. And it's open to anybody. You can go along. It's a totally open conference. There's a small fee, obviously, to attend, but just jump online, have a look at that. So Australians for Science for Freedom just Google Australians for Science and Freedom, and it'll come up, and you can check out the conference that's coming up on the weekend. Here at the other side, we do not get more than $1 billion of taxpayer money like the ABC does to waste on fun stuff that we and our friends like while ignoring the public that we're supposed to serve. We have to rely on your support of this show. But I also hate asking for charity. So we've done a deal with what I think is the best VPN service in the world so that you can support this show and get excellent value for yourself in return. Private Internet Access VPN is a virtual private network. You download their app onto your phone, your TV, your computer, whatever you use, and it'll route all your data through a different server location so that you can't be tracked by the prying eyes of big government and big corporations. It keeps you and your family truly safe, and it will not massively slow down your internet speeds or make it harder to use your devices like some VPNs do. Private Internet Access, PIA VPN, is quick and easy to install, and once you've downloaded it, that's pretty much it. You can sign up using our special Other Side code for less than $3 a month. Unbelievable. That is a whopping 83% off the normal price. And you'll get the first 4 months free, and you will be helping our show a lot. So get onto it. piavpn.com/otherside to get the special deal. And get this, if you've got a Netflix account, by signing on through a server in another country to Netflix, like the US, for example, you'll get access to that country's library of Netflix shows on your account as if you were in that country, which is also great if you want Netflix in a different language or something. piavpn.com/otherside. If you like that clip, there's more where that came from in our full show, The Other Side. You can watch it right here, the latest episode. And please subscribe to our channel by pressing the subscribe button right here or down here. And remember to click that notification bell too. It all helps. Join us and become part of The Other Side.